All right. So, a very good morning. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Furthermore, the views, opinions, and insinuations made by the hosts and the guests do not reflect those of the show, the organization, and the entirety of the university.
The University of Santo Tomas is one of the premier academic institutions here in the Philippines when it comes to liberal arts education, and as the Faculty of Arts and Letters was founded in 1896. It is the university's most diverse tertiary academic unit and home for 13 bachelor degree programs, including, of course, our own political science.
Polsai Mag-ingay, the TPSF, along with the Office of the Vice President, brings to you its very first podcast, POLeisipan Career Path Podcast Series, consisting of 4 episodes to be posted every week on our official Spotify channel. The podcast aims to aid Thomasians to find new sets of information that will enable them to unleash their full potential in the long run. So fasten your seatbelts because we're about to ride and get a peek at different paths we can take in the future.
You got that right, partner. And I heard there will be quite a rush of excitement for today's podcast. And honestly, I am so excited mula kagabi pa. And a sneak peek lang for our listeners, the episodes will be tackling the program's prospective career fields such as the academe, international relations, law, and of course, public administration. Teka lang, wait. Hindi pa tayo nagpapakilala. Where are our manners, partner? Let us introduce ourselves first muna. I will be one of your hosts, Angie, ang Audrey Hepburn ng Department of Political Science. And together with me is, of course, my Plaka partner. Please introduce yourself.
How can I top that, no? And ladies and gentlemen and our non-binary friends, I'm Jeho, the Cary Grant to this cutie. And join us as we illuminate your journey as a political science student. We formally welcome you to POLeisipan Career Path Podcast Series.
Very good morning, afternoon, or evening, or wherever you are, mga Spartans. And to those who are tuning into our podcast right now, hoping you all had your coffee and drinking or able to, for you to be able to wake up. And so while others may be relaxing on their couch or in their bed after a long, tiring day, and for the meantime, get yourselves comfortable and find the ideal position to place for you to concentrate on listening on our amazing podcast for today.
That's right, partner. But, before we begin, we just want to remind you guys that you can like and follow our official social media accounts at UST-TPSF on Facebook and at UST-TPSF let me rephrase that, at UST_TPSF on Instagram and Twitter for you to be updated on what's happening in our organization. Now, before we begin, partner, how are you? Like, honestly, I haven't really met you since, syempre, we're both from different senior highs. This is actually my first time seeing you and meeting you. But it's been almost a year and going on two really since we've felt that face-to-face classes. We've missed that campus energy, the fresh faces, or even the sabog faces of our classmates. But how's the at-home learning environment, especially now when we're trapped or we're nakakulong tayo? We are forced to explore the four corners of our house. So how are you right now? How's your mental health, your well-being? Then, syempre, those are things that we have to consider din ngayon.
Honestly, to be honest, ever since online classes tayo, siguro kabisado ko na kung ilan yung tiles namin, kung ilan yung pinto namin. Binilang ko na lahat ng jealous nila, lahat ng window namin, gano'n. Pero honestly, it's been very challenging. Hindi tayo magkakamali with the fact that it's been very hard talaga. Hindi mo maiiwasan na ma-disconnect ka from the world. Kasi syempre, when you're at your online class, ang hirap maging active with your family. Syempre, you're there, so it's hard to, di ba? Kaya, honestly, napapaisip na rin ako about my future. Alam mo naman, it's better to be prepared. Kaya that's why I've been so invested with today's podcast, because I know that it will shed a new light for us who are already choosing our future professions.
You got that right, partner. It's so good to hear din na kahit paano you're safe, you're doing well now during this pandemic. And hopefully next year things will get a little lighter. I'm really excited to meet you, to be honest. And actually, with regards to daydreaming about the future, no, same here talaga na I'm really expecting, or I'm really scared of what lies beyond me, especially now that we're freshmen in the political science program. Kaya let's not wait any longer to open this very special episode, our very first podcast. We'll be diving into the fascinating world of public administration.
Nandito tayo ngayon to discuss what public administration really is in general, and as well as why and how it became an ideal track and common pick among political science majors. And so, partner, introduce man sa atin ang ating special guest, Kuya Kiko.
It would be such a pleasure, partner. So, for today's episode, we welcome a distinguished alumnus of the Department of Political Science. Now, during his undergraduate years, he served as a former UST Central Student Council President from 2018 to 2019, and also the UST Central Student Council Public Relations Officer from 2017 to 2018.
And during his time as a political science student, he served in the Political Science Forum as a year-level representative to the Policy Board from 2015 to 2017, the chairperson, Committee on Appropriations, and the co-chairperson, Committee on Research and Publications.
Now, outside the university, he served as a student chair for the CEAP-NCR Student Leadership Committee from 2018 to 2019. He also currently presides as the Kabataang Tambuli ng Pasig President, Central Officers from 2020 until present, and the Pasig City Youth Development Council Floor Leader from 2021 until present.
And after having graduated from the program, he is now a certified public servant after having passed the civil service exam, pen and paper test, professional level in May of 2019. And currently, he is now pursuing a master's degree in political economy, School of Law and Governance from the University of Asia and the Pacific from 2019 and ongoing. Alongside this, he currently works as a Project Development Officer 1 for the Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, from May 2020 to present.
So, without further ado, a very good afternoon, magandang araw po, and welcome to POLeisipan, Mr. Francis Gabriel O. Santos. It's such a pleasure to be here to open our series for today.
Thank you so much, and the honor is all mine. Thank you so much for having me in this activity. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
So again po, thank you for joining us today po, Sir Kiko. And I have been continuously talking about public administration po as a profession din po. So gusto ko lang po malaman, can you tell me more about the work that you do po, and have you considered doing such a line of work as an undergraduate student?
Thank you for that question. Honestly, when I was in college, what I really wanted was to really work in the government. And apart from that, of course, is to work on my master's degree and eventually give back and become part of the academy. As it is right now, I'm currently in the government, and I'm at least I'm doing what I've been dreaming of doing since I was in college, to give back to the public, to give back to the government. So the work that I do right now, because our agency is a really young agency, it was just created last 2018. So our agency is the one tasked to implement and oversee a national policy against red tape. And as a political science student, I've always seen myself as someone working at the technical aspect of things, the policy side of things, policy development, policy analysis. And my degree in political science have really made me equipped. Have really equipped me in facing the challenges of the work that I'm doing right now. And yeah, I've considered it as a line of work during my undergraduate stay in UST.
Ito talagang podcast namin na to, it would help a lot po na political science majors na who are considering this field po. And of course, that's why we're really looking forward for this po. Thank you so much for the answer.
Yeah, that was something. No, I mean we're just getting started, and I really can't wait for the other questions we have in mind. Um, so, siguro as a follow up, Kuya Kiko, as an alumnus, you are aware naman na the political science program in UST is not only based on the national curriculum that CHED implements, but it's also aligned to international standards, which enable students to be globally competitive in the near future. So, as a product of this program, and as a Spartan as well, I would like to ask how political sciences help you in your current profession as a public servant. Were there any advantages or disadvantages? Were there any um, things which helped you mold your experience in this particular field?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Before I answer that, no, I'd like to point out, no, and I take pride, I take great pride in this, no, that our curriculum in political science in UST, is not like any other schools, no, that is law school oriented, meaning, you're gonna lead to law school after your political science after you graduate political science. Well, thankfully, our school does not do that, and my training in political science have really equipped me. For one, when you work in the government, deadlines are all around. Meaning you have to be really quick on your feet, and at the same time really quick on your writing. And in our political science, naman na more often we write papers, no, academic papers, and if it's given ahead of time, I know, no, let's be honest about it. You write it days before the deadline, and think of it in a way na when you were in college, you're gonna write a paper when the deadline is tomorrow. Then so work. When I have a concept paper to draft, a technical paper to draft, I'll be able to do it and deliver it efficiently because my training in political science gave me that necessary, skill set in writing, a good, I think, I would say good paper naman kahit paano. So apart from that, of course, our reading skills, because in our degree we were trained to read a lot of pages, a voluminous amount of pages for a single topic. And similarly in work, you would read, no? Hindi lang naman ito out of thin air. You'd also have to back it up with research, with evidences, with data, and that would be really handy. I was trained like that way in UST, political science.
Thank you so much, Sir Kiko. And for our next question naman po, since the main distinction is that public administration po is a subfield of political science, how has studying political science aided in your career po as a public servant?
Political science, as they say, di ba, na-discuss yan sa ating first course, no? Yung political science as a profession. One of the sub-disciplines of political science is public administration. And I'd like to think of it in a way that it's politics or praxis, no? The theories that we study in political science, the theories that we've read in political thought is being applied in public administration. Because after all, as si Doc Jim, yung prof namin sa approaches, would say that political science or social sciences in general, the laboratory is the society. And in our case, in public administration, it's the government bureaucracy. So, I think I don't see it as something na pang prilo lang, but really more on an application of theories that we learn in class and improvement, of course, of the government bureaucracy.
So yeah, I actually agree. No, the how you said that the laboratory is our society. I mean, if I recall correctly, in our first few days of Pol 3 to 11, our prof, she actually said na as political scientists, we are in the tightrope between, let's say, art and science. Na we follow objective truths, or we follow the subjective truths of art, and at the same time we follow the scientific method or the subjective of science. And I really like that, we say nga talaga na the laboratory is our society. We study who the Filipino is, why the Filipino is, and why the Filipino community in general acts in a certain way or thinks in a certain way. Now, siguro, connecting then, Kuya Kiko, that question, that we always think that, we have a common misconception that pol sci is a pre-law. We always get from our, let's say, relatives or seniors na, okay, so magpo-pol sci ka, dapat maglo-law ka afterwards. And then after law, syempre, you'll take the bar, you'll become a lawyer as future compañeros, such and such. But being that sometimes outsiders, perceive this program to only be a pre-law course, what's your opinion on this? And siguro another follow-up could be, what are the possible professions as well that we can pursue in this path?
Question, no? First of all, there's nothing wrong in pursuing law after political science or after any undergraduate degree. But it's already a common misconception that our discipline is boxed in a notion that after you graduate from here, you're gonna turn out to be a lawyer. But being a political science graduate myself, I have realized that law school is not the end all be all of things. Because honestly, I also wanted to become a lawyer. I also plan to become a lawyer after political science. But and path, and I'm glad where I am right now. And it will make you realize that, sabi nga ni Dr. Coro, political science is not a terminal course. You can pursue a lot of things after political science. One of it is law school. Another would be foreign relations or diplomats. And then another is government civil service. You can also become an academic lecturer. You can also become a researcher. You can also become a community worker. Because the degree or the training that we get in political science in UST does not box us in the notion that we're going to become lawyers. They give us a training that you can have a lot of to choose, and it's up to you, to choose what you want to become. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of batchmates who are currently pursuing law school, and I've been really rooting for them to become successful in their path. And the same way with us, with us who chose the path less traveled, ika nga. So it's just a matter of really understanding political science as a discipline and how varied and how wide this discipline is. And that contributes to the richness of our program in UST.
Yes po. Actually, ang kagandahan po talaga dito sa political science, ang iniisip ng iba, you can only go on one path. But the truth is, there are so many possibilities, so many opportunities na you just can't take down eh. Depende po talaga yan eh. Kaya it's not only necessarily, maglo-lawyer lang. Kaya it's really nice that this podcast po, syempre, talking to people with experience, it really clears up the fact that there are more opportunities than you think. Yeah, thank you po. Ang susunod naman po is, it's been asked po so many times now that in order to feel qualified to pursue public service or an administrative job, you must become a student leader and immerse yourself in such diverse organizational works as a prerequisite. And as an aspiring student leader myself, I've always believed that you can be qualified even if you haven't been or you haven't become a student leader per se, or if you have, it would only serve as a bonus. But I'm curious po, since with your experience, do you think being a student leader is actually necessary po to be considered qualified?
Question sa pagbabalik natin.
Yes.
Pagbabalik po.
So I guess we'll take a short break for that. Thank you ulit, Kuya Kiko. We really appreciate your answers.
Yes. Short break po muna tayo. Okay po uli. Kahit medyo nanginginig na po tayo. Alright, so ito na po ang pagbabalik ng ating POLeisipan podcast. So again, to have a refresher po, Sir Kiko, ang last question po natin is, it's been asked many times that in order to feel qualified to pursue public service or an administrative job, you must become a student leader daw po and immerse in diverse organizational works as a prerequisite. And as a student leader myself, I believe that it's not exactly necessary for you to be a student leader to be considered qualified. And if you have, it will only serve as a bonus. So based on your experience po, do you really think po that being a student leader is truly necessary in order to be qualified?
Thank you so much for that question. And I couldn't agree more with what you said. Being a student leader, being active in organization, it's not a requisite, no? It's not a necessary experience before you find a job. But I do believe that it would become beneficial or advantageous for you because in doing organizational work in the university, you would experience the pains of processing documents, of preparing proposals, of writing letters, which is a necessary skill set when you apply for work. Diba? And on top of that, of course, yung people relations, how you work with other people. I think that's what working in organizations would train you. Working with other people, dealing with them, and at the same time, your technical and writing skills na rin. So those are the things that I think would benefit you if you apply in an organization.
Follow-up question po na it would connect to the question po is it's going to be helpful po for our audience. That are there any tips po that you may recommend to a political science student planning to enter the field of public administration po after completing the program?
My first tip for them when they plan to work in the government while at a very young age, sana mag-civil service exam na sila kasi I know a lot of people who I graduated with cannot enter government service or cannot become permanent workers in the government because they were not able to take the civil service exam before the pandemic struck. So that's one thing. No, that's the license that you have to get before entering government. But at the same time, of course, prepare yourself in all aspects. Prepare yourself to be overworked. I mean, of course, marami namang ganun sa government because, after all, it's public service. It's in demand. Overwork and at the same time, ang sinasabi ko sa sarili ko, basta kailangan buo yung loob mo and may integrity ka. Kasi it's one, for me, apart from doing the work in the government, I really wanted to, become an agent of change within the system. And I cannot be an agent. You cannot be an agent of change within a system if you become, a part of the system or become the very reason na gusto mong baguhin yung sistema. So I've always said to myself na if ever I so decide to leave the government, I would be proud of myself because I will leave the government with my integrity intact. Diba? And at the end of the day, sabi nga palagi ng mga boss namin sa office, kasi it is your last day. Because after all, it's public service. You cannot choose time for public service because it's all the time, sabi nga nila. So yun yung matitip. And at the same time, prepare. Prepare for a lot of deadlines, a lot of work meetings, a lot of field works, and of course, a lot of readings as well. Maano rin naman yun. Kailangan mo talaga magbasa na magbasa. So, yun. So, yun yung may bibigyan tip. Apart from taking your civil service exam. Pero yung mga graduate kasi na may honor, they are exempted because they already have an automatic eligibility to work in the government.
Thank you so much, Sir Kiko. Beautiful answer.
First time ko lang malaman na so sige, let's aim for that dean's list and hopefully Latin honors. But siguro kung to follow up na lang din po on what Ange said a while ago. Speaking of Latin honors, is it required to attain, let's say, a higher degree? For example, you were to take your master's, or like you po, right now you're taking your master's, or let's say a doctorate's degree other than your bachelor's to pursue a career in public administration. Will it help? I mean, it will help, pero is it a prerequisite? Is it required, or it acts like bonus talaga for you?
When I graduated UST, I really wanted to pursue a master's degree, not only primarily because I wanted to teach. But I realized once I entered government service, I realized that a master's degree would always come in handy. handy in a sense that if you wanted to close the ranks of government bureaucracy, you would have to have a master's degree in order for you to hold a division chief level or medyo supervisory level na yun. And requirement nila ay master's degree holder. And I think if if you really wanted to be part of the government and you really see yourself climbing the ranks of the government bureaucracy, investing in your master's degree would always come in handy. But apart from that, prospect of being promoted across the ranks of the bureaucracy, one of the values of civil service, which we always after when we do the oath every Mondays and Fridays, siguro you will continuously learn, diba? That's part of the oath of a civil servant, that you will not be bounded by your degree, but you would always strive to learn more, because once you learn more, you can always give more. You can always become better, and that's not only for yourself but also for the people that you serve. So I think maganda ring prospect ang magkakaroon ng master's degree or even a PhD degree if warranted, di ba? Pag kailangan talaga. And there are some positions in the government that are really highly technical or very specific that would require you to achieve a certain degree. Kasi more especially in the sciences, in the science and technology part, yung mga scientists natin, mga researchers natin, more often than not, pag matataas ang posisyon, they would have a PhD already. So those are things that you can consider when you enter government service.
We will keep that in mind, Ange. But ayun, siguro it was actually kasi of course we all want to aim for that, and I love how we never stop learning. It's not just because we finished, let's say, political science, okay na, we're free to stop reading, we're free to stop learning. But no, it's really a continuous path. It's a journey of readings, it's a journey of textbooks and chapters and pages. But then again, in the end, talagang it's going to be worth it talaga. So siguro, going to the next question, in your myriad of experience in leadership positions and being a former student leader yourself, how can students effectively shape their leadership skills, and what advice would you give those political science students who are a little bit complacent or they're still shy to take up new leadership positions, whether it be in their local program or, let's say, higher office in their faculties or even?
Well, in my experience as a political science student and eventually as a student leader in the university, lagi ko na sinasabi sa sarili ko, parang I would always jump. Like, sabi nga ni Father Ferriols, sa philosophy ay ginagawa, lundagin baby. Kasi parang, parang at the end of the day, if kung hindi ko man makuha or hindi ko magawa, at least I know in myself that I tried. I gave it a shot, di ba? And yun yung may advice ko sa aking kapwa political science students in the university right now, that if an opportunity knocks at your door, embrace it and then jump for it. And at least kapag hindi ka naging successful or pag hindi ka naging masaya, at least at the end of the day, these experiences shape us. They hone us to become better versions of ourselves. And in my case, in my experience as part of the Political Science Forum, which helped me become a better leader for university in the Central Student Council, this gave me the necessary training, the skill sets, and how do I deal with people, and how do I deal with the stress that we are experiencing at work. So, ilang may advice ko, it's okay to be shy, but at some point you really have to jump. Diba? You have to take the leap of faith. And whether or not you were successful or otherwise, at least you can always charge your experience and you'll know yourself better the next time.
Ito naman po, hinihintay na lahat ng questions. Ano po ba talaga yung naging influence mo in regards with choosing the career of public administration over other tracks?
Alam mo, practicality-wise na rin siguro. Apart, of course, from the desire to work in the government, practicality-wise, parang I cannot afford to study for 4 years again if I pursue law school. Parang it's a long time for me. Kasi parang ako, if I can work right now, if I can gain experience right now, I'll do it. Parang naisip ko, if ever I really wanted to become a lawyer or a law school student, I would have time for it, di ba? Pag gugustuhin mo, I can always work on it on the sidelines while I'm doing what I want to do. And eventually, na-realize ko rin na apart from doing government work, what influenced me is, of course, our professors in UST. That's very good in teaching the discipline. And I really wanted to become one of them, become like them, no? Professor or an instructor of political science, and inspire more people to not just traverse the path of being a political science student, but at the end of it all, parang always give back to the community. Become in whatever capacity you think you can. It may be becoming a lawyer, becoming a diplomat, becoming a civil servant, becoming a politician, becoming a lecturer or an academic instructor, and in one way or the other, yung nagpapalit sa akin na there's so much that I can do with my degree. And I'm really thankful nga sa degree natin sa political science because it really equipped me the necessary knowledge, the know-how, the skill sets that's necessary for me to at least I can say na successful somehow in my own right in marking my name in the world.
Actually, Sir Kiko, I have my best friend is actually planning to pursue public administration, and I think I'm going to ask on her behalf kasi I really think that it would help her and more people like her. Na ang katanungan ay paano po ba? I mean, is it really worthwhile daw po to pursue it, or kung oo man po, how and in what way? And ang pinaka gusto niyo tanungin is there really a wide range of opportunities po regards with public administration? Mostly ask from you po with experience talaga.
Yes, no? Quick and short, no? Yes, no? Working in the government bureaucracy is worthwhile din naman. Because here you get to do things that can affect other people's lives for the better. When you work in the bureaucracy, when you work in the public administration sector, you would be able to encounter a lot of people. You would be able to encounter a lot of work, that would policy perhaps that would be assigned to you to review, to recommend, and then that would really be beneficial to other people. And I think that makes it worthwhile. Well, at the same time, while it's worthwhile, it always come with the stress, di ba? With the pressure to deliver. Kasi sabi nga, you cannot be complacent when you work in the government because the common notion is if you are a government worker, you're chill. Parang very complacent dahil nga ang notion natin when we were taught in UST or in our experience, napakabagal ng gobyerno. Ang mga trabahador ng gobyerno, napakatatamad. Di ba? The case because a lot of people who has the passion and the heart for public service work in the government and they work in the background, like amidst and background of every noise that we see, diba? So that's where real work happens. Yung paggawa ng policy, pag-implement ng policy, pag-evaluate ng policy, pag-propose ng policy, that's what happens in the background. And if you work in the public administration sector, you can have the chance to influence or to somehow input something that you think would make the policy or the program better. Is there a wide range of opportunities in public administration? Yes, the government is one of the biggest employer in the Philippines. I realized this recently when I interviewed applicants for certain positions. Parang in regional offices, they would say that they are applying to our office because the government agency present in that area, and being employed in the government would always entail security of compensation of benefits, because the government is a stable institution. So, and apart from that, of course, for instance, I'm working in a national government agency right now. I can always look for other job opportunities out there in other national government agencies. Maybe you could consider NEDA, DOF, and other national government, or even local government, di ba? Local government units where real action happens in grassroots level. So there are a lot of opportunities, no? Career growth wise, you can always look for other openings, other opportunities in other government agencies. Although I think, my perspective, when you are already part of an institution or a government agency, mahirap lang din ma-promote because you would always wait for someone to leave the office before you get to be promoted. Kasi merong staffing pattern ng government agencies, parang organizational structure. Kumbaga, kunyari sa isang agency, inalot lang ng Department of Budget and Management ay, okay, so for this position, you'll only have, for this office, you'll only have 5 people, then 1 division chief, 3 PDO1, mga ganun. So in order for you to rise the ranks, you'll either wait for that person above you to leave, or look for other offices within the agency that there might be vacancies, or if nothing else comes short, talagang ilipat ka ng agency. But the competitive naman din, and I think marami ring opportunity, and the government is incentivizing its employees pursue further studies, because nabanggit ko kanina, di ba? Sisikapin kong maging parang sabi nga sa civil service quote, no? Sisikapin kong madagdagan ang aking talino at kakayahan upang ang antas ng paglilingkod ng bayan ay patuloy na maitaas. So they are incentivizing further studies in the government. So a lot of opportunities are in the public administration sector, and it's just ask of you to take the leap of faith. Of course, to keep it intact along the way.
Honestly, Kuya Kiko, I'm very speechless talaga. Honestly, thank you so much for that. And honestly talaga, I'm so relieved at the same time kasi may pagkatugma yung in-advise ko din sa friend ko na nasa hard work naman talaga yan eh. And if you really want change, then it's really up to you. It's up to you how you're going to take action in regards with making change. Kasi it's not always gonna depend on, kasi kailangan ko to kasi sabi nila ganito, but it's always going to depend on what you want. And if you attract what you want, then it comes to you. Kaya, thank you so much again. Beautiful advice. I could not add more to that. Partner, take it away.
Grabe. So, ayun. How can I talk that off? Well, siguro, I think regarding, let me dive into the job of being in public administration. There's this connotation na, siguro, a little bit of context. Around last year, I met with relatives, and then, syempre, there's the occasional, ikaw, anong kukunin mo for college? What do you plan to be when you grow up? And then I told them, I'm taking political science po, hopefully for my pre-law. And they said, tama yan, madaming pera dyan sa pagiging abogado, tama yan. You're going the right path. And there's that connotation or that negative look na, ayun, when you're a lawyer, syempre, or when you wish to go somewhere further in that path, there will always entail a higher salary. But there's that connotation or that talk about not having significant income or a good base salary when it comes to pursuing public administration as a profession. What can you say with regards to this, and how can we quell this yung pag-iisip na to na being a public servant, yes, you'll put in a lot of work, but where's the pay, ganito ganyan?
Thank you for that, no? That's if you get that, if you're looking for jobs, you're gonna look at the salaries, the offer. The good thing public naman ang salary grades ng government officials. Yeah. And recently, the administration passed a salary standardization law. I think that was already SSL 6 or 5. We're already at the second tranche of it. So every year may increase kami based on that law. And I would say that the salary of the government is competitive, especially for those who are trying to just start their career. And more especially kapag na yung rango mo sa government bureaucracy. Siguro that's just to give an idea, no? Kasi I just don't know with the private sector, but in the government what we have is the salary grades, and these salary grades correspond to your position, and more parang nakadepende rin sa qualifications, and at the same yung level of job mo, kung ano ba yung trabaho mo talaga, kung sobrang technical yan or something. Let's give you an idea. For grade 15, you can get in a permanent position. Kunyari, appointed ka na as a permanent employee. Pag SG15 ang iyong salary grade, you get at around ang gross mo ay 35,000 per month. But kung permanent ka, may kaltas yun, mayroong bawas yun. Kasi of course, you have the Social Security, yung GSIS, you have the PhilHealth, and you have the Pag-ibig. And meron ka pang other bonuses. Ang iniisip ko na lang, no, and I think it has to be clear then for everybody that when you work in the government, and more especially kapag naging permanent ka na sa government, ang dami mong benefits. Sa GSIS pa lang, yung bonus mo secured yan, yung leaves mo secured yan. Kasi it's already in the law, it's already in the institution. And while it's true that you can always look for greener pastures, iba pa rin job security kapag nasa government ka in a permanent position. Why do I say in a permanent position? Kasi pag permanent ka sa government, you're really insulated from politics. Yeah? You're really insulated from the pains of politics na every now and then kapag pwede kang tanggalin. Hindi. That's why pag permanent ka na sa government, that's a good indication na you already secured in your job. Although of course, a lot of people would also eye for it. That's why if you get appointed in a permanent position, if you get the chance to be part of the government, you also have to do your part. You have to become the best public servant or civil servant you could ever be. And well, significant income, not a problem. I think that's for my perspective. It's not an issue because at least maraming safe yung salary mo, and okay yung compensation or benefit package na makukuha mo sa government. Especially, sorry medyo advanced, so especially when you're eyeing to retire in government. Meaning, pag tumanda ka na sa gobyerno, kasi maganda rin ang benefits makukuha mo in the long run. So, I think that's one common misconception that we need to make other people realize. If you are very, very curious about it, you can always look up the salary standardization law. Yung SSL, I think 2022 na, and SSL for 2022, you can see there the matrix schedule of salaries that the government employees receive. So makita nyo doon, no? Okay din naman pala. Okay din pala. Lalo na kapag tumaas ang rank mo. Bigyan ko kayo na example. Kapag ikaw ay cabinet secretary, SG31, that's 250,000 or 280,000. Pag si Vice President, SG32 kasi Vice President, Supreme Court Chief Justice, Senate President at Speaker of the House, around nasa 300,000. Tapos pag si President, SG33, nasa 450K. So, ibig sabihin, along the lines of that, makikita nyo ang taas pa rin. So, okay pa rin talaga.
So, Sir Kiko nga po, sana, I really hope that this podcast would help a lot of them na wag lang titingin sa salary. It's really just a bonus po, no? With the hard work, but at the same time, if you really want to pursue public administration, it would be better if talagang it would come out of your heart and not only looking at the salary. Kaya, thank you so much for that answer.
That's true. And well, syempre, yun nga, it really opens a big chunk, or as Kuya Kiko said, the road less traveled. It really opens our eyes to this, I would say, uncharted territory, but of public administration. Kasi syempre, I think, yun nga, we've tackled really a lot about public administration today. But sadly, like all great things, our podcast must come to an end. But before we formally end this episode, we would like to actually hear. We have now Kuya Lloyd from 3Pol2 to hear his reaction and insight of towards the field of public administration. Since, if I'm not mistaken, ngayong third year, they're already taking their course public administration. So, Kuya Lloyd.
Hello, everyone, and to every Spartan listening to this podcast. Yes, we're currently taking a public administration course under Dr. Lansang. So, by the way, I am John Ludiro Lea, third year political science student and reactor for this particular podcast series. So, sobrang dami ng pwede nating matutunan but just by simply listening to this podcast. And thank you, Kuya Kiko, for sharing your knowledge. Totoo na daming misconception regarding Polsci. Like people expect you to pursue law school, become politician, and whatnots. And just to share, during my high school days, I was so active in many organizations. Siguro yung pinaka-pikat di ko malilimutang experience in high school was being able to serve the student council president of the biggest public secondary school in the Philippines, Batasan Hills National High School, with 20,000 students enrolled for this year, 16,000 nung panahon ko. And dahil sa student council, naging inspired ako towards serving the public and taking this course. And currently, I am serving as a parliament officer in Quezon City Youth Parliament. And in QCYP, youth are given the platform by QCL to create bills, resolution, ordinances for the betterment of youth sector in the city. Kaya nga nakaka-relate ako kay Kuya Kiko regarding the deadlines, yung pressure, etc. And tulad nga ng sabi ni Kuya Kiko, worth it yung field na to kasi lalo na kapag nakikita mo na ini-implement yung mga policy na ginawa mo at fulfilling siya na nakakatulong ka sa kapwa mo kabataan. And lastly, being the field of public administration, we must be brave and pursue justice and equality. And this week nga lang pinatawag kami ng DepEd regarding administrative case na sinampa namin 3 years ago. And nakakagulat kasi sobrang bagal na proseso sa loob ng ating burokrasya. It took 3 years bago gumulong yung kaso. And tinanong kami, willing pa kami to pursue this? And we said yes, kasi hindi naman mabubura ng isang simpleng sorry lahat. Kailangan dumaan tayo sa tamang proseso ng hudikatura para makamit ang hustisya. Sabi namin, hindi naman ito basta laban lang ng klase namin. Laban ito ng bawat estudyante na nakaranas ng operasyon noon. Kaya siguro dapat isulong natin ang pagbalangka sa mga pulisiya na magsasaayon sa sistema ng ating burokrasya. Yun lamang. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Kuya Lloyd, for that very informative answer. And that reaction is, syempre, us as freshmen, we hopefully, how do I say this? We look forward then po to really learning further and looking at what public administration can really do. And that actually wraps up our very first episode for POLeisipan Career Path Podcast Series. Thank you ulit, Kuya Kiko, for inviting us to this podcast, or for accepting this invitation. Sorry, sobrang nang. But before we officially end this episode, are there any other things that you would like to add or share? Baka may gusto ka pang i-plug or whatnots?
Yeah, siguro just to cap the morning off, pursuing public service, it's it's a tiresome job. But at the end of it all, you get to reap the benefit of being able to help other people towards in the process. And if you are having second thoughts of entering the government, I tell you this, that's okay, because of course If you enter the government, you have to be strong. You have to withstand pressure. You have to withstand the forces that may come that may come with it. And sabi nga, di ba, mahirap na kapag napaka-idealist mo na pumasok sa gobyerno, tapos paglabas mo, hindi na ganun ka-idealist mo. Sabi nga ni Mayor Vico Soto, no, palagi ko itong tinatandaan din, hanggat bata pa tayo, hanggat may idealismo pa tayo, at buo ang ating loob at may integridad tayo, pumasok tayo sa gobyerno. At doon natin baguhin. At doon tayo magsimula ng pagbabago. At kung hindi man tayo magtagumpay, at least pag lumabas tayo, alam natin na hindi ginawa natin ng lahat ng makakaya natin, and at the same time, buo ang ating integridad. And yung experience ko sa government ngayon, kilala ako ng mga kaibigan ko na bilang idealistic din at pragmatic. Dito mo sa gobyerno marirealize yun. May mga natututunan nating teorya sa loob ng 4 na sulok ng classroom natin. Kailangan mong ilatag sa isang realidad, isang konteksto na kailangan mong i-adjust para ma-achieve mo yung gusto mong ma-achieve. Yun ang pagiging pragmatiko. Dito mo matututunan sa gobyerno yan. And a lot of things that we learn inside the classroom will be reinforced and you'll learn further when you do it in practice. Kasi sa government or sa public service, andyan ang praxis ng political science, lalo na ng public administration. When theory and practice meets, that's praxis, and that's public administration. And I hope you will really seriously consider working in the government because we need a lot more young people in government who's filled with passion, who's filled with idealism para mabago ang bureaucrasyang sistema at more importantly, to be able to uplift the life of other people. So yun lang, no? Thank you so much for having me in this morning's conversation. I really glad that I accepted and you invited me. So the honor and pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much and have a great morning. Long weekend ahead.
Actually, Sir Kiko, di po tayo magtatapos. We're just going to take a short break po muna and then we will have our closing remarks na po. Again po, thank you so much po and we'll be back po in a while. Hopefully po, ito na po ang huli nating pagbabalik. So again po, thank you so much, Sir Kiko. And to last question na po natin, ano po ba talaga yung natutunan natin with this episode? And much better, has this episode piqued your interest in pursuing a career in public administration after earning your bachelor's degree in political science?
So, yeah, honestly, kasi we've had, I think when we were kids, we've had that thought na, I want to work in the government, or I want to be, let's say, yun nga, like usually when we fly, our minds flew high when we were kids that we wanted to aim for being president and such. And then when we get older, especially now that we're in college, we are now exposed to this, what the government really is. Na before we thought it was a fantasy, but really behind it nga all, as Kuya Kiko said, really behind all of this are those hardworking people in public administration who keep the cogs going, who keep the cogs well oiled, who keep the machine in shape. And siguro, as a political science student and as a student then, we usually get that notion na estudyante ka pa lang, you cannot do anything yet. Siguro, after you graduate, sige, tumulong ka sa bayan. But we really see, na especially now that as we open our very first episode, I mean, this launch pa lang of our podcast is already a thing in itself. It's helping, it's giving back na, as Kuya Kiko said, it's giving back to the community, it's giving back to the people who are around you, your society. And I think this is a really big eye-opener for me na, syempre, ako personally, hopefully, in the near future, we get to all graduate, we go to our respective, whether we take law or whether we go to public administration, whether we become diplomats, lawyers, whether we become even government officials. But then in the end, it really boils down to your ethics. It really boils down to who you are, what you want to be, and what you want to do for the Filipino people. Kasi yun nga, once you're in public administration, it's a life of service. It's a continuous process of learning not just your materials, but learning as well who you are and who you want to be to the people that you serve, to the not just your office mates, not just the government in itself, but also the Filipino people. So I really like there was this quote I remember before. I'm not sure if we can connect this, but it says that we spend our life in constant dreams, never really having the courage to break out of that internal monologue and live our lives. So I think this is a nice reminder for us, especially as political science students, na hindi lang talaga law ang patutunguhan natin. Hindi lang talaga just because we're political science students, we have to do this and do that. We also have to remember that we are here to serve the people, and that as people or as members of the society ourselves, we are also subjected to the same harsh realities that we go through every day. And it's really just up to us whether we break out of that internal monologue that we keep on telling ourselves, or we just stay in our comfort zones, or we really explore the world unknown, the government that we want to change, the society that we see in our minds. It's really up to us if either we put that into mind or put that into paper. So yeah, I think that would be my reflection. Medyo napahaba, but yeah.
So, oo nga. Thank you so much, partner, and thank you, Sir Kiko. And as we've all gathered by now, there are numerous benefits talaga and job opportunities in this particular field. And not to mention, the options are truly limitless. And working in public administration, as what I've learned, gives you the opportunity to directly impact the local, state, and federal governments, because you would have the authority to implement or recommend program changes. And a career in public administration is full of exciting possibilities. And there is plenty of room for advancement always. And whatever public administration job you choose, just as what Sir Kiko says, keep your motivation strong to achieve your goals and do a professional job. And of course, have fun along the way.
Yeah, that was really nice, no, Ange, na we really got to tackle what public administration is. And siguro now, we can say that we've gained, something. We've already learned something new to add to our books, no? And I guess that's that. A very big thank you nga pala to our listeners, to those who tune into the podcast. We hope this podcast gave you new insight really about different professional paths na pwede nyo i-pursue pagkatapos ng degree sa political science, especially in the field of public administration.
Tama ka dyan. Not only that, partner, pero I also believe that our speaker was able to clearly address all of the questions you've all been anticipating. And we hope that this will be useful not only to our graduating political science students, but also to our undergraduates who intend to pursue public administration as a career in the near future.
That's right, partner. And once again, syempre, the man of the hour. Very big thank you, Kuya Kiko, and to our dear listeners for having the time to listen, and especially in your case, to share about public administration in our very first episode in this series. No, and also tune in. No, this isn't the end. This is just the first.
Yes.
We are about to. Siguro, should we give them a sneak peek, partner?
Yes.
Siguro,
Man.
this will not. This will not just be the our last. This is just a start, and we're just getting started. So tune in to our next episode when we talk about the academe right here on POLeisipan Career Path Podcast Series.
course, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify. Also, if you haven't followed and liked our social media accounts at UST TPSF on Facebook and at UST_TPSF on Instagram and Twitter, make sure to do so you'll never miss an episode. So I hope we've all untangled yet another POLeisipan inside of your head. Until next time po, see you guys, and thank you, Sir Kiko.
Thank you again, Kuya Kiko. Stay safe, guys. Get vaccinated and don't forget to register to vote.